Hello everyone and welcome to the 3.0 Vigilant Thrusting Guardian overview. This is the most perverted spec in the game, those Vigilant Thrusting Guardians. How do you thrust vigilantly, I hear you ask? Well, we're going to show you in this 3.0 overview. No changes for 3.1 or 3.1.1 to Vigilance. I'm pretty sure there weren't anyway. Alright, let's take a look at this spec. It is a DPS spec on the Guardian. Struggling a little bit at the moment, particularly in operations. For questing, it's not too bad actually, it's pretty good for questing. We're going to talk about what's new about this spec. Our big new ability is, level 57, is of course, Vigilant Thrust. Oh yeah, you're going to get vigilantly thrusted by this Guardian, thrusting vigilantly. I don't know what makes it vigilant. You know, maybe he does it with great care and attention, his thrusting. But anyway, we'll talk about this class a little bit. We'll talk about our utilities. There's not a lot that's really new ability-wise. The only real new thing is our dot spreading Burning Storm. Force Sweep and Vigilant Thrust spread our burning effects to all targets they damage. At least one of the targets must be affected by our burns. And again, Cyclone Slash, which is our other kind of filler AoE, will do 25% more damage. Bear in mind we have this utility, 50% more damage with these two stacking. It's an awesome AoE spec. This is an awesome AoE class at the moment, really. God, it's a good AoE class. Single target, it struggles a little bit on raid bosses, and we'll explain why later on. But yeah, let's talk about the basics of our utilities. We'll look at our utilities first. We'll also look at things like, we do get a lot of burn attacks. Bear in mind we do have quite a few burn attacks. Of course, Plasma Brand is our main burn attack. Overhead Slash and Blade Storm are also apply burn, so you want to get those three up before you Vigilant Thrust. Or Force Sweep if you don't have Vigilant Thrust yet. Right, so we'll talk about our utilities. Second Wind is pretty nice if we're going to get stunned a lot. Reduce the cooldown of Rebuke. Rebuke is our breakout stun by 30 seconds and causes Resolute to heal you for 10%. Resolute, not Rebuke, should I say. Rebuke is the Sentinel thing. Resolute by 30 seconds and Resolute to heal you for 10% of your maximum health if you are going to get stunned a lot, or if the boss is going to stun you, then you're going to take this. I'm going to show you that's Resolute there. Breaks you out of stun. You can only use it while stunned as well, so it's not as if you can just spam it if you're not getting stunned. So again, if the boss is going to stun you, again, we take a look at things like the bonus boss in Korriban Assault on, what is it? Korriban Incursion it's called. Again, we get stunned a lot in that boss, a lot of damage coming out. If we can get that, we can use our breakout, get 10% of our maximum health. Is pretty nice, but again, it is going to be situational at best. I took it for leveling because most things fucking stun you in this game right now, so we might as well use that, get that breakout, get the cooldown reduced, and the 10% heal is pretty nice. Battlefield Command, getting attacked reduces the active cooldown of Force Leap. Not the most useful for PvE, because in PvE, especially if we're doing raiding and group content, we shouldn't really be getting attacked a lot. We just shouldn't be. There are situations where it is kind of useful. You could argue maybe things like Sword Squadron, it could be quite useful because there's a lot of AoE damage going out, and Underlurker as well might be useful. But for general PvE, it's going to be situational because there's a lot of damage going out. So if you want to get to those adds quickly on Underlurker, getting attacked, reducing your cooldown. We are going to get attacked on Sword Squadron, we are going to get attacked on Underlurker because it's a lot of AoE damage going out. So again, maybe might consider it. Defiance, we generate 4 rage, 4 focus should we say, in the Guardian. Rage is for the Juggernaut, but same thing I guess. When we're stunned, immobilized, put to sleep, or knocked around. Again, can be useful. I prefer Second Wind. I don't think rage is... focus is never a huge issue in DPS. Tanking, we kind of want the focus. But for DPS, I prefer Second Wind. To be honest, getting that 10% heal is pretty nice. Again, it's less pressure on the healers that you're putting on. But again, if you're going to get stunned, then it might be worth considering. If you're getting stunned a lot, we might take this again. Master Strike, immobilizing the target for the duration, is useless in PvE. It's useful in PvE as well, because I tend to find that targets run away from me. Targets always want to attack Kira for some weird reason. So immobilizing the target, I guess because she was full 192 while I was leveling, and I only had, what, 186 Verpine gear, which is, I guess, why they always wanted to attack Kira. And she did say eat lightsaber jerk, so I guess that is why. Again, not really that useful for PvE, useful for leveling. PvP, it's pretty useful if some things try to run away from you. This one, Trailblazer, our only real mandatory one. Cyclone Slash deals 25% more damage. Very nice when we're doing AoE. Again, AoE is one of our strengths. We are very, very good at AoE, and if we get all the targets burning, it can double that to 50%. We get 50% extra damage if we take this and have Burning Storm. So we can do some serious AoE damage, some serious cleave that we can do as a Guardian. Again, reduce the increase the duration of Force Leap's immobilize effect, stagger this is, by 1 second. PvP, yes. Taking non-periodic area of effect damage generates 1 focus. This is what you're going to take if you're not getting stunned. Basically, very good for fights again, like the Underlurker, like Sword Squadron, where we're taking a lot of AoE damage. There's a lot of AoE damage going out, so we will generate 1 focus point. Again, the more focus we generate, the more damage we can do. The less time we spend generating focus. So again, it's free focus, free resources, which is pretty nice for us. We'll move on to Masterful. Gather Strength. Whenever a movement is impaired, we gain a 5% damage bonus to the next ability that consumes force. It can stack up to 5 times in the last 15 seconds. Situational, unfortunately. Again, on fights where we are getting our movement impaired, again, we think about fights like the War Chief. The Rakata War Chief on the Rancor in Legacy of the Rakata. With this, again, we can get an extra nice little damage bonus out of that again, but unless we're getting immobilized or our movement speed is getting impaired, it is useless. So again, fight by fight basis. So, Intervention, Force Leap, Guardian Slash, Overhead Slash, Zealous Leap, and Guardian Leap grant intervention. It makes our next freezing focus consume no focus and activate within half of the global cooldown, essentially, because by default the global cooldown is 1 second, so half a second. Basically, I don't know about this one, to be honest with you. Useless on bosses. It's alright on trash, actually. As a tank, it's not too bad on trash. DPS, yeah, kind of situational. Again, we want to do a lot of damage on bosses, really. We don't want to be the kings of trash. We want to do bosses, because trash doesn't have enrage timers, so... Again, Freezing Force, kind of not our best ability. Purifying Sweep. Now, for the defense discipline, it's Force Sweep slows the target 60%. We don't care about that. Vigilance and Focus Discipline. Force Sweep sunders the target's armor for 45 seconds. Sunder targets have their armor rating decreased by 20%. Now... we're going to talk about this. This ability we are going to take if we do not have the 2-piece set bonus. And we will explain that in the rotation. So if you do not have the 2-piece set bonus, I would take this ability right here. Purifying Sweep. Take it. And when you get the 2-piece set bonus, however, we are not really going to bother with it, though. It is still useful, but... it is going to affect our opener for our rotation, so bear that in mind when you are considering this. But if we have the Guardian 2-piece set bonus, this is less useful. It's alright for AoE, but it's less useful on the boss that we're talking about. So again, we're just going to discuss that later on. Guardianship, I would suggest taking this if you're raiding. Challenging Call protects all allies within range excluding yourself, granting guardianship, which absorbs a moderate amount of damage. Again, in fights, a lot of AoE damage going out. Again, we've got our old faithful Underlurker, Sword Squadron. Challenging Call. The Challenging Call, if you don't know what Challenging Call does in Vigilance, Challenging Call when you're not in your defensive form, when you're not in your Suresu form, it is, when you're in your Suresu form, it's your AoE taunt. When you are not in your Suresu form, you should be in your Shen form. What it will do is it reduces threat. It will reduce threat by a moderate amount, so we do want to be using Challenging Call as a DPS tank. DPS Guardian, a DPS tank, that's awkward. So as a DPS Guardian, we do want to be using it. I would take this, it's a nice little raid cooldown. Again, you can use it every 45 seconds. It's useful for when periods of spike damage are coming. So again, if you're getting hit by a lot of things at once. Again, fight Sword Squadron, Underlurker. We always talk about those fights, really. Those fights tend to make up the majority of our things. There are other fights like Bulow as well. Bulow has a lot of avoidable AoE damage, though that's why we don't use that. But Sword Squadron, Underlurker, we always talk about them. They're the fights that most people get stuck on either one of those two, so that's why we use them really as a thing. Pulse is not very useful for PvE. Force Stasis reduces the cooldown by 15 seconds. PvP. Inspiring Force. Freezing Force now increases the movement speed of all allies within 8 meters, excluding yourself by 50% for 8 seconds. Can be useful if we have to get out of something quickly. Again, if you want to get out of something or everybody has to get out of something quickly, or everyone has to get someplace very quickly. Fights like Coratini can be quite useful on, so you know, it is something to be considered. Preparation, I like this one. I like this. This is very good for questing. Not necessarily the best for raiding, but certainly for questing it's very good. When we exit combat, the cooldowns of Force Leap, Combat Focus, and Saber Thrower reset. So we'll show you that right now. We do combat, we'll leap at this target, and we'll pop our cooldowns, and we'll fire that off. You can see they're all on cooldown, but when we exit combat, which we should do, that little lightsaber spinning trick that he does, when we exit, they all come off cooldown. Which is pretty nice, because Combat Focus, what are you doing? What are you... The hell are you doing? Are you trying to dance or something? Oh, he's a blind Jedi, you know, he can't find his lightsaber. Oh, where's my lightsaber? Where is it? Where is it? Oh, where's his light? Where? Oh, it seems to be missing. Oh, there it is. Oh, he's doing his little spinny trick again. There we go. Just pressing Z to get rid of it. Right, there we go. Buff him up again. So again, very useful while questing. It makes us very good while questing. Good for certain fights. We want to leap to the next target quickly, I guess. But for raiding, yeah, it's not really that useful. Things like Challenging Call, Guardianship is more useful for things like that. And Inspiring Force, should we say, is better. Tend to be better than Preparation. But Preparation, very good for questing. Right, we'll move on to Heroic. Reducing the cooldown of Force Push by 15 seconds. Freezing Force no longer consumes any force. Nah, not really. Tank, maybe we'd consider it, but not really PvE. We don't want to use Force Push. We don't want to be pushing things away from the tank unless you're a douchebag. Unless you're like a douchebag assassin who just wants to be a douchebag guardian. Daunting Presence. Force Leap finishes the cooldown of Force Kick. Saber Reflect lasts 2 seconds longer. Suresu form is active. We generate a high amount of threat on all engaged enemies within 30 meters when activated. Again, this one is useful, very useful. Again, if we need to interrupt something, getting that, you know, we can just leap to something and interrupt it. This would have been quite cool for Draxus. Would have been quite cool because we could just hit one guy, leap to another one, and then kicked it and interrupted it. So it would have been quite useful. I think Force Leap does do an interrupt as well. But yeah, I would take this. Saber Reflect is very, very useful. They did nerf it a bit, especially on Torque, on Torque HM. You could use it to reflect the fire, but Saber Reflect is a very good defensive cooldown for us. Again, it reflects all direct, single target, range, force, and tech attacks. So if we're ever getting attacked We don't get attacked a lot by direct attacks, but in case we do, can be very useful. Can be very, very useful. Through Peace, the other one we tend to take, reduce the cooldown of Focus Defense by 30 seconds. Now, Focus Defense, healed basically, will heal us by a small amount whenever we take damage. It can only be used when we're below 70% health. Again, fights like, we're going to say it again, our favourite two bosses, Underlooker, Sword Squadron, Torque, I guess, we'll use Torque as well, and also, yeah, Bulow as well. So those fights, Coratini as well, if we are taking dot damage as well, we can cleanse it, of course, we're going to talk about that later on when we get that. But again, it is very, very useful if we're taking constant damage. A lot of dot damage goes out on Coratini, and there's a lot of AoE damage going out. So again, Enraged Defense, help out the healers. Help out the healers, increase your survivability. Things like Saber Reflect is less useful than Focus Defense, we say. Enraged Defense is the Juggernaut one. Intercessor, reduce the cooldown of Guardian Leap by 5 seconds and reduce the threat and damage taken by an additional 10% by each friendly target that is hit by Guardian Leap. Guardian Leap is very, very useful. It's essentially because we lack a speed boost. Guardian Leap tends to be our speed boost, so if we need to get out of something really, really fast and we can target an ally and Guardian Leap to them, then it is useful. So, you know, if we're in trouble, it is a handy little ability. Whiplash, kind of pointless. Saber Throw, immobilizing the target. Peaceful Focus. Focus Defense removes all cleansable effects when activated. Now, if you're doing Coratini and you don't take this, do not bitch at me for a cleanse, okay? As a healer, I hate classes that will just bitch at me for a cleanse. Bear in mind that you're taking, there's a lot of dot damage going out on Coratini, and you have it yourself the option to have a cleanse. You know, Focus Defense removes all cleansable effects. You've got like the Corrosive Grenade one, and there's like a fire debuff. It's mostly on Ruger. It's actually not on Coratini, the cleansable one. It's when you go through and fight Ruger. Then you get the cleansable effects. Take this ability for that fight and don't bitch at your healer for a cleanse, because as a healer, our cleanse cooldown is doubled. Our cleanse cooldown as the Scoundrel is 12 seconds, okay? We are picking and choosing our cleanses wisely. We're going to cleanse the tanks first. We're going to dodge cleanse ourselves as a Scoundrel, and we're going to cleanse the tanks generally. That is what we are going to do. We are not going to cleanse DPS Guardians, so take that. Take this as well. Take these two. Stack quite nicely. Through Harmony, increases our movement speed by 50. Ensure increases movement speed by 50% and grants immunity to movement impairing effects. Useful again on certain fights. Again, we talk about that Rakata War Chief again, who does get our movement impairing effects. So it is pretty useful. Again, for getting out of things, Ensure increases our maximum health by 30% for 10 seconds. Temporarily, of course. It's not really going to be... no, we're not just going to press that. We'd press that all the time if it did it permanently. But yeah, so I would take Ensure. Again, take that if your movement speed... If there are movement impairing effects going on. Again, we mentioned certain flashpoints. There are a few of them going out there. So I would consider taking something like that. Right, we'll move on to our rotation. Now, we're going to talk about our rotation when you do not have the 2-piece set bonus. Your 2-piece set bonus basically increases all damage done after you use Sundering Strike by 2%. So how is it going to affect it? So the first thing we really want to do, if our single target, the basic priority of this, the basic philosophy of this is to get as many Master Strikes out as possible. Master Strike is our best single target ability, therefore we want to be getting them out as possible. Bear in mind that we reset the cooldown on Master Strike when we use Overhead Slash and Plasma Brand. We also want to keep our Blade Storm when we get the proc. On Blade Storm, it is Force Rush, Plasma Brand, and Overhead Slash and Dispatch increase the critical chance of your next Blade Storm by 50%. So Blade Storm will become an auto crit when it stacks twice. So we're going to stack it twice and make sure Blade Storm is critting whenever we hit that. So basically we want to get that off. Our priority is Master Strike. Bear in mind that fights where we have to move, this is why it kind of struggles on single target. A lot of times things go on where we have to move, and Yeah, that's what ruins this spec as a DPS spec, because we're relying on Master Strike. So what we're going to do for our single target rotation, we are going to pop Focus Combat. We're going to leap in there. We are then going to hit Vigilant Thrust. Now we're going to hit Vigilant Thrust instead of Sundering Strike. We will get the target will be sundered. Now you have, basically if you have no set bonus, use Vigilant Thrust instead of. So when we leap to the target, use your combat focus to generate 6 focus, so you don't have to use Sundering Strike. Basically, this will do more damage. If you have the 2-piece set bonus, you're going to use Sundering Strike instead of Vigilant Thrust, and you're not going to use combat focus. And the reason for that is it's more damage to use Vigilant Thrust without the set bonus. Vigilant Thrust, bear in mind, requires no focus. There it is, that's the animation for Vigilant Thrust. It costs no focus to use, and it will sunder the target. So we want to sunder the target and then get our Master Strike off. So we sunder the target, we get our Master Strike off, we'll pop our combat focus so we have a bit of focus again. And then our next priority is to get Plasma Brand, Overhead Slash, and we have our proc here. We're going to fire that off, and then you see our Master Strike has come back off cooldown. Hit our Master Strike, our Dispatch is proc, we're going to hit that off, get back to our... We need to generate a bit of focus, get back to that, and get back to that again, and then go back to your Master Strike. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you keep your Plasma Brand and Overhead Slash on cooldown at all times. You're going to only use Blade Storm when you're single targeting, when you have the 2 stacks of your Force Rush. That's the only time you're going to use it, because it makes it an auto crit. Basically, it turns it into the auto crit. 50% per stack, it's 100% chance to crit. We want that 100% chance to crit. And Vigilant Thrust, we tend to use when we have nothing else. If we don't need to generate focus, if we have plenty of focus and we don't need to use Sundering Strike, we're going to use Vigilant Thrust. Now the main difference between the set bonus and the non-set bonus is going to be Sundering Strike is a DPS increase, because it increases all damage done by 2% for the next 15 seconds. So getting Sundering Strike off and then getting your Master Strike and then getting your Plasma Brand, Overhead Slash, and Auto Crit Blade Storm off is a DPS benefit than hitting Vigilant Thrust. Because hitting Vigilant Thrust, no set bonus. In my case, I have no set bonus. I still have to cap my accuracy on this character. But again, with no set bonus, I would recommend using Vigilant Thrust. It's going to do more damage. It's going to have the same effect. Use combat focus to generate your focus. Use it out of combat. Use it just before the pull. When the tank's about to pull, combat focus, force leap, Vigilant Thrust, get that Master Strike off, and then it's a case of, again, Plasma Brand, Overhead Slash. Use them whatever order you want. Doesn't really make any difference. Doesn't make a huge difference, to be honest with you. That is basically AoE rotation is going to be very different. We're going to get our burn attacks up first. So our priority is to get all our burn attacks. So we're going to pop again. Combat focus. You can throw your lightsaber if you want as well. We're going to get this off. What we're going to do is we're going to get Plasma Brand, Overhead Slash, the procced Blade Storm, and then what you're going to do is Vigilant Thrust, and as you can see, we spread all our burn attacks to the 2 targets. Because this spreads all burn attacks, bear in mind. So what you're going to do is you're just going to get, again, Force Leap in, get your combat focus up. Plasma Brand is the first one because it lasts 12 seconds. Then Overhead Slash, get the proc up on Blade Storm, let it do more damage. So again, just let it get more damage out, and then Vigilant Thrust, and then of course it's Cyclone Slash. Bear in mind, Cyclone Slash will do 50% more damage if the targets are burning and you have this skill. 25% and 25%. That's huge. That's a huge amount of damage that you're going to get for at least for a good few seconds. Now you're going to have to refresh again on that. So it is a very nice AoE spec at the moment, this is. Anyway, that is all for this video. Thank you for joining me. And we'll see you again soon for more Vigilant Thrusting Guardian. So, goodbye.